Hey, hi everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch News Update on Tuesday, October 18th. We're going to go ahead and let Vince get started. He's on the road and has called in, and as he just informed us, his phone might die. So, Vince, go ahead with your update for Central and South Louisiana, please.
Okay, great everybody for having me today. Traveling from down in Crowley up back to the central part of the state. It's still dry here. We've had those couple of rain events come through with these fronts. One on Thursday evening with a couple of tenths, and then again this morning we woke up to showers, and it's just not enough at this point of the game. And it's definitely a dry fall season. We've got a number of folks that have put that ryegrass seed out, whether it's haven't been over seeded to some permanent pastures, some work ground, prepared seed beds, and just anticipating some rain event, to get that seed on up. Unfortunately, that has not been the case with the last two events. I don't think it's going to be enough to get anything moving. Considerable number of calves have been shipped from the spring run of calves, spring-born run. Prices have fallen to some degree at local stockyards. A lot of question here recently whether we'll see a rebound in the market. I hope Jason has some good news for us moving into next month and maybe November, December. But it's kind of a wait and see game, and some folks are feeding cattle, calves still, spring-born calves still January, February with anticipation of a better market. So fertilizer prices still exuberantly high to get these ryegrass stands established. Folks are putting these high dollar fertilizers out in a mix with ryegrass seed from the local distributor. I just hope we can get a rain forecast here soon to get things going in the right direction, but it's not looking favorable. Next front, I think, is sometime next Thursday, Friday, in that time frame, but about a prediction of about a quarter inch of rain. So still lots of cows going to market because of drought conditions, cost of doing business, and I think everything above. And we talked about this earlier in the year when we saw high kill cow prices. A lot of older generations of cattlemen are kind of stepping away from this tradition and this livelihood just because of the cost of doing business. And don't want it to sound all gloom and doom, but it's the fact of the matter is it's hard to make any kind of positive out of a margin these days. So I hope you guys in the north and north central, northwestern part of the state have a better report, but I think you guys are pretty dry as well. So hopefully we start to see some rain in the forecast, and a lot of folks are starting to feed hay right now. As we look at the drought monitor, I mean the extreme drought is starting to take hold in some areas, and we're probably in a D2 drought in my area. We just need some unseasonably rainfall to get things in the right autumn. That's about all I have at this point, Ashley.
All right, thank you, sir. Lee, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you for our Northwest region.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And Vince, you don't have the market cornered on pessimism, because I got my fair share from up in the northwest part of the state as well. Temperatures have been moderate. I guess that's a silver lining to the cloud right now. We've been seeing some moderate temperatures, kind of warm afternoons, nighttime lows getting down into the 50s, so 60s at some points. But overall, it's been pretty pleasant weather, except for the fact that it's been so extremely dry. Did have one little small rain event that moved through a few days ago. Very widespread, very sparse rain, very uh, kind of a diverse amount across the region. Some folks talked to got almost an inch, others got a trace. One man told me he got a 3 inch rain. It was 3 inches between every raindrop. So there's been just a little bit of everything, but that's been the only respite. Even the folks that got the more substantial rains a couple of days ago, it just hadn't been enough to do much good. And folks are as Vince stated, they're getting the ryegrass and the cereal grains and whatnot into the ground. and just praying for rain right now. Um, that big rainfall that we had over a month and a half ago now, that enabled us to really dig out of a hole when it came to our hay needs for this fall and winter. But we're slipping into a hole a little bit on these winter forage plantings as far as not having the moisture. And what it's going to do to us, in my opinion, is it's going to push our grazing dates so far backwards. 10 days, 10-day forecast right now showing maybe next Monday, Tuesday, we've got a kind of a 50-50 chance of rain coming in, and that's a full 7 days from now. So I hate to be all doom and gloom, but as far as weather goes, that's what we're experiencing here. I've gotten several texts and calls and whatnot from producers asking that have gotten some grass planted, and they just not seeing any emergence. And these summer pastures up this way, they're done, folks. We touched down into the high 40s, I believe it was, for a night or two, and that coupled with, of course, the lack of rainfall. You have some cows that are still cleaning up some of these Bermuda grass or Bahia grass pastures, but that summer forage is getting pretty rank right now, unless unless they're just overabundance of it or something like that, or you got lucky and picked up rain that I don't know about. So everybody's pretty well done with hay, got stuff washed up and put up in this part of the country. Um, I hate to venture a guess as to how much ryegrass has been planted, but I guess I'll step out on a limb and say that we're probably in the 40% range. I would hope that's an accurate estimate as far as how much ground has been planted that's going to be planted. A lot of folks just waiting on some moisture, plain and simple. And as I stated earlier, the forecast is just not in our favor right now. A lot of cows being worked. Folks are taking advantage of these moderate temperatures and getting these cows through the chutes, and trying to catch up on some herd health um, um, maintenance that has needed to be done for a while. Stripping off these calves, weaning these spring-born calves. I would say that's mostly completed. Folks that had planned on shipping cattle, most of them have shipped them if they had it on their minds to sell. The census of these local sale barns has been pretty high in the last couple of weeks. Those that have sold in the last week or two probably wish they would have sold a little earlier. I'm just going to be honest with you, as far as how this market goes. When we're talking about our cattle market, it truly is a nationwide market, and we're experiencing drought here in Louisiana, but we're far from the only ones. And you got to understand a little bit about what happens to our calves whenever they leave here, and when they go to the sale barn, and who buys them and what they do with them. The heavier weight, the feeder weight cattle, those 650, 700s and above, more likely than not, they're going to wind up in a feedlot. And I'm sure Jason's going to touch a little bit on placements maybe in his report. But these lighter weight cattle, when you're pulling off these 500-pound calves and below and sending them to the sale barn, more likely than not, they're getting bought not for not for feedlot purposes, but rather by this time of the year by somebody that's looking to graze those things, whether that's in Louisiana. And there's a number of stocker operators in Louisiana that buy Louisiana cattle and turn them out over the winter on winter forages, put that weight on them, and then feed them or sell them in the spring. But a good chunk of our lighter weight Louisiana calves wind up in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Those states would probably hit all over the top three for sure. And it is terribly dry across those three states that I just mentioned. Visited with a good friend of mine that's out of South Central Kansas last week, the latter part of last week, and we were talking about they plant a lot of wheat land and graze a lot of wheat cattle. And he said he's in his middle ages, and it's the driest he's ever seen it. He said it is just powerfully dry up in his part of Kansas. And folks got wheat in the ground much like we have ryegrass in the ground down here. Just hadn't been enough moisture to speak of. But I'm optimistic on these cattle prices. I'm not going to say that things are going to turn around. We're going to see record high calf prices anytime soon. but I'm optimistic. You know, Texas received some rain. Oklahoma received a little bit of rain this past weekend. You know, that wheat gets a good drink of water, and if it comes on up, then that's going to drive the demand up. And what's that going to do is cause these stocker operators to turn around and call in the orders with their buyers. And I hope that drives demand for some of these southeast cattle that traditionally go there for grazing purposes. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I would be a whole lot more optimistic if we could catch a 1.5, 2 inch rain all across the state of Louisiana. And Ashley, that's all I got. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Jason, we'll go ahead and pass it on to you for the Northeast region and our markets.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So Lee, right now you were talking about placement weight. So while you were talking, I just went ahead and looked it up. So right now we're running toe to toe with the 5-year average. So right at 737 pounds is the average placement weight right now. So I think that plays right into what you were talking about in terms of our weighing cattle, 500 to 600 pounds. I mean, I know that's a big range, but folks wean at different sizes, but somewhere in that weight range, they've got to go somewhere else before they get placed on feed. So that was some really good comments. I appreciate that. In terms of field conditions, it's a lot like what Lee was saying. Folks over towards the western side of the region got about an inch. As you move further east than that, it got a little bit higher. Some of it was like 9/10, but it was just kind of all over the board in terms of what they got. But and it was definitely not a drought buster. And I was looking at the U.S. drought monitor earlier whenever I was looking at putting my report together, and I'm not one of those that I wouldn't put all my savings on that U.S. drought monitor in terms of what it looks like, but I question how we could just be abnormally dry. I mean, whenever you look at the field conditions right now, I don't know. I just don't see. I've seen some pretty good droughts this time of year, and I think we're a little bit worse than abnormally dry. But that's what the report says right now. As you look across the country, we're evidently in better shape than some, because there's some pretty extensive drought up into the plains. There was spent a lot of time over on the eastern side towards the Mississippi River last week. Those guys over there getting in their fall field work, so they're getting in a lot of windshield time on those tractors and trying to get all of that fall field work wrapped up. And there has been a little bit of cool season forage planted. I don't think that folks have got all of it out by any means, but I think they've went ahead and gambled a little bit and put out some. And I guess I would just reiterate one thing that Lee said, just to reinforce that. So it's not too late to plant. So all you're doing is delaying days to grazing. The later we plant, we're delaying days to grazing. It will still come up. So I guess the reason I bring that up is because, so whenever we do an economic comparison, you gotta compare apples to apples. So if you compare pounds of dry matter between ryegrass and a bale of hay, so if ryegrass is going to cost you $200 an acre, so it's going to cost you a little bit more than that to do a prepared seed bed. It's going to cost you a little bit less than that to do a sod seed. So we'll just average it out at about $200 an acre. And that's only going to cost you about 0.053 cents per pound of dry matter. So let's say that you can find a pretty decent 1,000-pound round bale of hay that's going to be about 9 to 10% crude protein and about 54% energy. And let's say that you figure in 25% losses on that bale of hay in terms of dry matter losses from storage to feeding. Then you're looking at about 0.076 pounds or cents per pound of dry matter. So even at a $50 round bale of hay, you're still going to be paying more per pound of dry matter than you would be if you were planting ryegrass at $200 an acre. So I realize that fertilizer is high. I realize that the seed has gone up a little bit, but if you do a good job of comparing apples to apples, then you can see that there can be some economic advantage to even now still planting some of that cool season forage. So I'll get off of that soapbox and look at the markets real quick. So slaughter volumes for this week were 660,000 head, down 4,000 head from the previous week, but up 13,000 head from the same week last year. Slaughter volumes will be hard to sustain year over year as gains in the future, as fed numbers decline and processor margins tighten. Choice box beef closed the week at $246.31. So that's down 58 cents. With a choice select spread of $31.56, which is up $3.78 from the previous week. But I looked across my spreadsheet there, just curious of what we are, where we were looking in terms of that choice select spread based on a 5-year average. So we're running almost $17 higher on that choice select spread for the same week on a 5-year average. So, and I don't believe the processor's margins have tightened up too much yet. With shortening supply and smaller show lists, packers are now, thankfully, having a difficult time keeping weekly gains below $1. So I think as we continue to get smaller show lists and these supply numbers to continue to decline, I think we're going to be looking at some $2 weekly gains instead of just these dollar weekly gains. Reported in the National Weekly Direct Slaughter Negotiated Purchasers Report, they reported a confirmed 75,624 head. In the Southern Plains, live purchases traded mostly $1 higher at 145. In Nebraska, live purchases traded mostly steady to $3 higher at 148. In the Western Corn Belt, live purchases traded unevenly steady with the bulk of at 148. Live cattle futures market settlements in the front months ended the week with December down 15 cents at 147.77 and February down 60 cents at 151.10. So if we do a comparison between the week open and the week close, live cattle futures ended the week up 77 cents to down 35 cents when compared to the week open. 500 to 600 pound steers, medium and large ones and twos, sold between 155 and 166. So that's $2 higher to $5 lower when compared to the previous week. So as Lee said a while ago, winter grazing prospects continue to control the narrative of these calf prices, with drought not yet releasing its grip on the southern and high plains. And I think until they get a firm grasp on what that winter wheat crop is going to look like, I think it's going to keep these calf prices suppressed in the interim. 700 to 800 pound feeder steers, medium and large ones and twos, sold between 136 and 166. So that's $7 to $5 lower when compared to the previous week. Futures market settlements in the front months ended the week with November down 132 at 174.77 and January down $1.20 at 175.10. Feeder cattle futures ended the week $1 to $2 higher when compared to the week open. So we continue to see some declines in our kill cow market. So lean cull cows and thin condition ended the week down a penny at 61 cents a pound. Utility, those in moderate condition, ended the week steady at 70 cents a pound, and breakers, those in high condition, ended the week down 2 pennies at 74 cents a pound. Looking at our feedstuffs, soybean meal is up $7.70 at $459.10 a ton. Soybean hulls are steady at $175 a ton. Rice bran steady at $190 a ton, if you can find it. Cottonseed meal up $25 at $475 a ton. Whole cottonseed down $25 at $435 a ton. The 60% corn gluten feed is steady at $790 a ton. DDGs are down $4 at $292 a ton. And corn is up 16 cents a bushel at $505.77 a bushel. And that's all I've got, Ashley.
All right, thank you, sir. Just to wrap up for upcoming
Hey,
events, go ahead.
Ashley, before you get into upcoming events, I made an error and forgot to announce something. You know, I like to always highlight these bull sales that we have in our region, and I just wanted to call everybody's attention to the Branch Ranch's bull sale coming up on November the 7th. They got a new sale time, 10:30 a.m. Talked to Mr. Tommy Rogers this morning, in fact, and we were talking about it, and he wants everybody to make sure to know about that they've changed the sale time to 10:30 a.m. selling 90 little over 90 Brangus and ultra black bulls right there in Mansfield. So I always try to highlight these local folks that are putting on these sales. So my apologies for not including that earlier. Sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you for getting that in there. As far as our events go for the Ag Center, we are sort of winding down the year. I've mentioned before, we have the Fall Acadiana Beef and Forage Field Day on Thursday, October 27th. Registration starts at 4:30 and the field day begins at 5. That's going to be the Vermillion Parish Extension Office, and Andrew Granger is your contact for that. I do have his email in the video and podcast descriptions. And then for our November Beef Brunch Series webinar, we'll have Mr. Bobby Bingham, who is one of our agents in the Southeast region. He's going to discuss grazing ryegrass and winter supplementation. I am still working on the edits for Bradley's that we had last week. So that's not up yet, but hopefully will be up by the end of the week. I think that's all we have. I can't remember if we're going to be back. I think State Fair starts before we're back with y'all. So going to go ahead and wish everybody luck at State Fair. I know we'll see a good bit of y'all there, and we'll be back with y'all in just a couple of weeks.